Hi friends, welcome back with Miss Carla. Today we are going to read a bunny story. It is called The Tale of Benjamin Bunny by Beatrix Porter. One morning a little rabbit was sitting on the bank. He prickled his ears and listened to the chit-trot of a pony. It was coming along down the road. It was driven by Mr. McGregor, and beside him sat Mrs. McGregor in her best bonnet. As soon as they had passed, little Benjamin Bunny slid down into the road and set off with a hop, skip, and a jump to call upon his relatives who lived in the woods at the back of Mr. McGregor's garden. That woods was full of rabbit holes. In the nearest sandiest hole of all lived Benjamin's aunt and his cousins, Flopsy, Mopsy, Cottontail, and Peter. Little Benjamin did not very much want to see his aunt. He came around the back of the fir tree and nearly tripped on top of Cousin Peter. Peter was sitting by himself. He looked poorly and was dressed in a red cotton pocket handkerchief. So this is Peter's cousin Benjamin. He was getting ready to go and visit them. He visited his cousins. And then he saw the McGregors. But there is Mama Rabbit with Flopsy, Mopsy, and Cottontail. And this is Benjamin's. He thinks he saw Peter. Peter, said little Benjamin in a whisper, who has gotten your clothes? Peter replied, the scarecrow in Mr. McGregor's garden, and described how he had been chased around the garden, and he had dropped his shoes and coat. Little Benjamin sat beside his cousin and assured him that Mr. McGregor has gone out for a while, and that Mrs. McGregor also were gone for the day, because she was wearing her best bonnet. Peter said, and he hoped that it would rain. At this point, the old Mrs. Rabbit's voice was heard inside the rabbit hole, calling, Cottontail, Cottontail, fetch me some more leaves. Peter said he had thought he might feel better if he went out for a walk. So Peter looks like he's not feeling well, and Mr. McGregor has took his clothes to make it into a scarecrow. So now Benjamin looks like he's gonna try to find a way to bring his cousin's jacket and shoes back. And now they're getting ready. They went away hand in hand and got upon the flat top of the wall at the bottom of the woods. From here they looked down into Mr. McGregor's garden. Peter's coat and shoes were plainly to be seen upon as a scarecrow, topped with an old hat of Mr. McGregor's. Little Benjamin said, it spoils people's clothes to squeeze underneath the gate. The proper way to get in is to climb down a pear tree. They left a great many odds of little foot marks all over the bed, especially little Benjamin, who was wearing clogs. Little Benjamin said the first thing to be done was to get back Peter's clothes in order that they might be able to use the pocket handkerchief. They took off the scarecrow. There has been rain during the night. There was water in the shoes and in the coat where some were shrunk. Benjamin tried the hat, but it was too big for him. Now Peter and Benjamin were going to find a way to get Peter's clothes back from Mr. McGregor. And then Peter was falling down from the wall, but he was saved by a bed of lettuce. Now they went over there and realized that they made lots of track marks, but now they have to find a way to cover up the track marks so the McGregors don't see that there were rabbits in the garden. And now Peter has his clothes back, and Benjamin was trying on the hat, but it was too big for him. Then he suggested that they should fill the pocket handkerchiefs with some onions as a present for his aunt. Peter did not seem to be enjoying himself. He kept hearing noises. Benjamin, on the contrary, was perfectly at home. He allowed his sleep. He said that he was in the habit to come to the garden with his father to get some lettuce for their Sunday dinners, not eat anything. He said he should like to go home precisely as he dropped half the onions. Little Benjamin said that it was not possible to get back up on the pear tree with loads of vegetables. He led the way towards the other end of the garden. They went along a little walk on a plank underneath the sunny red brick wall. So now, Benjamin was happy to go and grab some lettuce and other things from the McGregors, but Peter was not. Peter said he wants to go home as he was dropping all the onions away. Right here, he was dropping the onions. And now they're on their way back home, but they have to take a different route because it'll be too heavy to carry all the onions with them. Precisely, Peter let the pocket handkerchief go again. They got amongst the flower pots and frames and tubs. Peter heard noises worse than ever. His eyes were as big as lollipops. He was a step or two in front of his cousin when suddenly he stopped. And now, this is what those little rabbits saw around that corner. Little Benjamin took one look, and then in half a minute less than no time, he hid himself and Peter and the onions underneath a large basket. What do you think they saw if they had to hide underneath a big basket? They saw a cat looking at the basket. Perhaps she likes the smell of onions? Anyway, she sat down on top of the basket. So now they were almost on their way home when Peter was dropping the onions, and he got even more scared because of the sounds of the onions were going all over the place in the baskets, in the flower pots, and the tubs. And now they went to go pick up the onions, and then they got more scared when they saw something in front of them. They saw the big cat. And now the cat was sniffing around, saying if she saw anything, but the cat just decided to lay on top of the basket. She sat there for 5 hours. The sun got round behind the woods, and it was quite late in the afternoon. But the cat still sat on top of the basket. Oh no, the boys are trapped over here. It's been 5 hours sitting over here. The cat was sitting on top of the basket. And the boys and the 2 bunnies don't know what to do next. But who is this? This is Benjamin's father trying to find a way to figure out where they are. At length there was a pitter-pattern, pitter-pattern, pitter-pattern from the wall above. The cat looked up and saw old Mr. Benjamin Bunny prancing along on top of the wall on the upper terrace. He was looking for his son. He went down and tried to save his son. So he did this by got on top of the cat and tried to lead the cat out into the greenhouse. As he was over there, he scratched a handful of fur, and the cat was too surprised to scratch back. But when Mr. Old Bunny had driven the cat into the greenhouse, he locked the door so the cat couldn't get out. Then he came back to the basket and took out his son Benjamin and Peter. And then he was very disappointed in them because for hiding away from the cat when they know they shouldn't be in the garden in the first place. Then he took out the handkerchief of onions and marched them out of the garden. When Mr. McGregor returned about half an hour later, he observed several things which were confusing to him. It looked as though some person has been walking all over the garden in a pair of clogs. Only the foot marks were too small for that to happen. Also, he could not understand how the cat could have managed to shut herself inside the greenhouse, locking the door from upon the outside. When Peter got home, his mom face forgave him because she was so glad to see that he had found his shoes and coat. Cottontail and Peter folded up the pocket handkerchief, and old Mrs. Rabbit strung up the onions and hung them from the kitchen ceiling with a bunch of herbs and vegetables too. The end. So now he went over there and saved his son and his nephew Peter from the cat. See, the cat over there got stuck inside the greenhouse, and he told them that they had to march back home. And now Mr. McGregor was confused of what was going on in his garden, like how the cat got stuck and trapped inside the greenhouse, and why there were so many little feet marks all over the place. But now Peter is back home with his clothes, so his mother is happy. The end. Good story, right, friends? What are some things that you like to do with your family members? Let me know. Bye.